Hello. Hi, Mir. Hello. It's good to see you guys. How are we all doing today? When I blink like this, it makes the good. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad. Uh, um, I don't know if you saw, but I posted on Twitter when I tweeted like that we're live now. Um, I finally made my own thumbnails. I'm very happy. Because I finally got around to doing that. Um, and that's exciting. Oh, for tea today, I have it's like a vanilla black tea, and then I put some oat milk in there. Yeah, very exciting. I like blinking because it makes, like, if I talk and blink at the same time, then all of the bread just goes wild. And I think that's really funny. Uh, okay, back into we are exploring the Hypnagogic archive. We read two of the stories, and then while I was pulling up the archive, I actually found a new thing. Um, here's the button that I want. Oh no, that's not what I want. Don't look at that. Ah, whoopsies. No, don't. You guys weren't supposed to see that part. Uh. Oh, frick. No, stop that. Ah. Give me 1 second. It's not supposed to be connected to that window. No. What if I do this? Hold on. Is that? Oh, good. Okay, it's doing the thing now. Now I just. Uh. There? Hold on. That works. Okay. Okay. Bloop. I'll set myself down over here in the corner. Mm, plunk. Okay. Okay, so the new thing I found was this. See, I don't think this shows up on the actual site anywhere. Like excuse me, we have store, blog, guest book, videos, text files, and then text files. But I don't think that this message, prior administration, um, shows up anywhere. Oh, right, that's where we left off. We were in the middle of a story. I'm gonna read this one real quick. Prior administration, and there was one other that we found that didn't show up on. Let's see. Yeah, it was this one, Longing for Something Greater. See, I told myself I was going to take my ADHD meds today because then maybe I'd be able to stay on like one train of thought. I didn't do that. So here we are. Uh because I always get so like distracted, like there's so many things to look at with this project, you know? There's so many different things to read and it's so easy to like kind of lose which direction I'm going. And I try to keep things semi-organized, but you know, I think we can actually since I have it up here already, this will be really quick. Let's read this one first. Okay. Prior administration. Oh, also, I did download this picture. It's labeled Chloe. Do we know a Chloe? Travel card, Hatman, Marcia, Amethyst, Julian. Okay, we don't. I'm gonna put Chloe down. Wait. Yeah, we do. That one that we're reading in text files. It's called Chloe Final Thoughts. And then what was this one called? This one's also called Chloe. Interesting. Okay, where did we leave off for this one? Macy, my only true friend through this petrol ordeal, kept me safe from the watchful and ever vigilant eyes of Boise's finest. Let's see. That's too far down. Okay, here it is. Macy, my only true friend. Okay. Leave that highlighted. We'll come back to that one. I want to look at this first. Or, wait. Notes. So, Chloe. Let's see. Boise. Time. Traveler? Question mark. Okay. Hello, Ellis. We hope you're doing as well as when we last talked. We understand that handing the archive over to you will be an incredible burden on your mental health. Please remain at all times in the best frame of mind. Don't hire anyone with records of mental illness, notable adversions, anything along those lines. Check their resumes, pick them apart with a fine-tooth comb. We can't afford another lawsuit. We hope to wash our hands of the whole ordeal, distance ourselves, and set up offshore bank accounts. What we've been through in the past few months is enough to make anyone quit. I'm changing this because that's hurting my eyes. No. There. There we go. Rave time. I don't know what that sound was. That was so dumb. Okay. Alice, we hope you're doing as well as when we last talked. We already read that. Um, keeping the archive intact is a near superhuman feat. We were only able to do it because we started thinking because we started thinking it would be easy. Our expectations were quickly proven wrong. We do have a few tips for you. First, people will inquire about the shift in management. They will start rumors, threads, and the like, especially off-site. To this end, we've arranged to deactivate the Hypnagogic forums. They were a burden to our ends and ultimately proved counterproductive. If anybody asks, please tell them that we're still on good terms with the project and have ultimately severed ties with it. That's partially true about us willingly severing ties with it. We'll also help out by manufacturing a scandal concerning our VP. Concerning our VP. Scandals are a good diversion in times like these. VP says she doesn't mind, even if her name is dragged through the mud. So as long as we... Hold on, who's VP? Vice President? Oh, Vice President, duh. She says she doesn't mind even if her name is dragged through the mud, so long as it will provide an alibi for us to get away. Trust us, after a few years in the saddle, you'll also be willing to do anything to get out. There may not be a way out for you, but we've gone over all the paperwork, and if you really want to take this upon yourself, then there's nothing we can do to stop you. In all honesty, it'll be an incredible weight off our shoulders. Our second trip for you concerns the others, 2 capitals. As we discussed during our physical meeting, they may not arrive for a few months. They may believe the archive is dead, but they will start eventually once they're onto you. They'll ramp their game up fast. The others will attempt to coerce and badger you into deleting the server and all the content contained therein. They will carry this on for weeks on end, sometimes months, and at intervals provide you with a short break. They will pose over the phone and email as family members, coworkers, and friends. They will intimidate and harass you, threaten you with meaningless legal jargon. Do not attempt to retaliate or use violence against the others in any way. Over the years, we have found that these threats to be, for the most part, harmless. However, big yawn. However, any show of force will prompt swift retribution. We suggest informing the new staff of this as well. It ended badly for one of our interns. He now gets his food from a tube. Woof. There are a few ways to discern whether you are talking to the others or the genuine article. They can be clever in manipulating their voices and appearance, and can fabricate any photo or document you ask them to provide as proof of identification. Under happier circumstances, I would suggest creating a password for any further correspondence, but we may need to cut ties here and now. The others are through in their request for deletion, and they will not leave you alone unless you decide to delete the archive and scrub any evidence of its existence from the net, which, though virtually impossible, may be the course of action you take after your stint as chairman of the organization. We do not understand yet precisely how far the others can manifest in the offices, or if they can influence the course of events. Given their established ties with continuity and temporal mechanics, it would be best to err on the side of caution and consider your actions at all times. Weigh the consequences of one decision over those of another, and develop a mental state wherein you're fully aware at all times of your presence in the corridor between the past and the future. Knowledge of the operation of time is one of the greatest weapons you can yield against the others. They think they know everything on the subject, but we might have an advantage over them in some areas. This next bit is perhaps the most important. It is the reason given by them for the conflict at hand, and no other circumstances should you reveal it to any of the employees, even the senior staff. Doing so was our mistake, and we regret it deeply. The others want our project deleted because they feel it threatens them in some way, either their existence or their state of being. We rely on the stability of the well-defined years And what we're doing uproots their established model. To hell with established. That H is capitalized, but I don't know if that was. I guess hell is like a place you could capitalize it. Still. If someone can come across boundaries between borders and between countries, after all, what is a border but a human construct? Then who is to say that we cannot cross boundaries through time? Shake hands with the past and steal ideas from what is yet to transpire. This is our true mission statement, Ellis. Our purpose: to blur the lines between man-made boundaries and, in effect, make all time universal. This is the only step in an exciting new frontier. This is only the first step in an exciting new frontier. We expect you to uphold this directive. You shouldn't face many obstacles from the public. We take pride in our PR campaigns, our positive image on various social media networks and subcultures. We have confidence in your leadership and skill set, and your stated ability to uphold our original vision, while simultaneously taking things in a new direction. You are a godsend in these times, and we thank you deeply for your sacrifice. Please refrain from asking us any further questions. We couldn't begin to answer most of them, even if we wanted to. There are some things man was not meant to understand. Best regards, the prior administration. Okay, so I wonder if Chloe is the prior administration. Like, the same time traveler from Boise, you know? I mean, we haven't finished that story, so we haven't really gotten there yet. But that is something to keep in mind. Let's see. So the phone calls would be the others then. The others. Okay, so what happened to the first? Let's see. Hmm. Ah, that wasn't supposed to be all caps. Oh no. Why? You do that so often. I do not understand. There we go. Oh. How did Chloe get there? Hello? Wait a second, when did that happen? Why is Chloe here? How did that get... What the frick? There's just a new thing on my... So I'm using OBS Studio, and, right above application audio, there's just a Chloe.png. I don't know how this got there or when this happened. Wait, Amir, how long has this been there? I don't know how this got here. Because, like, when you're using OBS, it just got there. Because when you're using OBS, you have to, like, go in, you have to go down, you have to press the plus button, and then after you press the plus button, you have to go in, and then you have to select the image, and then you have to select what image you want to use. So how the frick did Chloe get here? Hold on, if I just... Oh! Chloe got there because apparently you can just drag and drop images down into OBS, and they just show up. I didn't know you could do that. That freaked me out a little bit. With that in mind, that where to go, where to go, where to go? Here it is. Bloop, Marsha. I did reverse the Marsha image. And this is what it came out to be. I think that's two different people. I'm not entirely sure. I am almost completely face blind, so I cannot recognize faces or process faces at all. So this could be the same person, or it could be two different people. I have no idea. Uh, like if I, because it's like I tried to put it, because like it cuts off here on this one. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse at all. But on the left one, it has that weird split in the middle. So in the right one, I tried placing those next to each other to see if it would make like a face. And it kind of does, but not really. Like the lighting is still kind of off. Um but yeah, I wasn't really sure what to make of it just yet. Anyway, that's that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Go back. Okay. Well, that was a lot. Anyway, the archives. So this organization is a little funky. I don't think... I do kind of like how this makes them come across as morally ambiguous. Kind of. Like, it's hard to tell who here is in the right and who is in the wrong. If there is, a right and wrong to be in this situation. Like, these are just kind of opposing forces. And neither of them are necessarily good or bad from what I've seen so far. Like, the way that they talk about um, blurring time or like boundaries being a human construct. Eh, I I don't think that's a great thing. Probably. It feels like maybe this is an Icarus situation, you know? Maybe the others are just trying to keep the balance, the timey-wimey balance of time. It's interesting, but this does give us kind of like a new perspective. Okay. Should we go? No. Let's finish up this story first. Okay. Last left off. What was his name again? Steve? I don't. Steve, it is Steve. Okay. Steve says he's married. Chloe, then after all of that work, just hits him with a brick. And he is no more. Okay. I knew. Oh, wait. No, stop that. Entire page. Background. Background? Background. Where'd the L come from? Bloop. No. Bloop. Not pretty, but easier to read. And I lost my place again. Nice job, Lore. You did that was great. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. Here I am. Okay. I knew I had to leave Boise behind. Macy's voice guided me, subtly. Colorado, it said. Move to Colorado. Start a new life. Blank slate. Clean slate. Nothing you've done matters, Chloe. It was all for nothing. So why worry about it? In a stupor, a kind of subconscious daze, I gathered my things. From one side came the glare of the police siren passing through the neighborhood. Those all too familiar popsicle lights on the walls. Had to run. Had to run further than I had ever had before. She's going to Colorado. Denver is in Colorado. I didn't just look this up because I don't know my geography. Don't look at me. Don't worry about it. So most of this is taking place in Colorado. See, I meant to look this up off stream so that nobody would see that I didn't know where Denver was located. Like, I was 75% sure it was in Colorado, but I wasn't 100% sure. Anyway, I forgot to look it up off stream. Anyway, the latte's good. Okay. Had to run further than I ever had before. It may not have been Macy's voice, but rather a fragmented and internalized piece of my psyche, one with no boundaries or reservations. There's that boundaries coming up again. It sounded like him, had that comforting musk, the tone of deep velvet armchairs and freshly baked bread. That is a very, very pretty line. I like the way that that is described. That was really cool. Uh, That paints such a wonderful picture. Holy cow. Sorry, I really like that line. That's good. Anyway, back on track. I heard it as I ran, sack in hand, through the hills of Idaho, the grassy knolls and the dimly lit stretches of road. It throbbed to a further extent when I hit Wyoming. Made my way on foot beyond the shadowy monoliths of Bridger Tenton by night. Caught rides with grizzled truckers who would likely have tried something if I didn't appear insane. No, I was insane, I'll admit it. Barely slept, only 2 outfits. Subsided on junk food for 3 months straight as I made my way toward the site of what was to become my life's work. I lay in ditches and listened to the voice in my head as he told me stories of the distant epochs. And all the while, Ziri, Z, Zer, Zier, Z, Ziere, Yere. How the, how am I supposed to, I don't, okay. Burned a firing, all-consuming life in the heavens above, which rotated like a magnificent mural upon the ever-impeding, impenetrable nothing. Okay, wait. Did we... What was this thing again? It's been a week and I don't remember. Uh, we'll come back to it. I knew the site when I saw it. It had been after 10 days of trekking, of hard trekking down the Padre Canyon, along with the rim of the Front Range. Along the rim of the Front Range. Coming upon towns with names which were foreign to me in this frame of mind. Berthoud, Campion. None seemed adequate for the tasks Mr. Macy had been subtly hinting at, and as I approached the area, an idea took form like a complete jigsaw puzzle. Effortlessly, it dawned on me. I have enemies, he said. In my line of work, girl, you know? I don't remember what voice I gave him, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. If you've ever had to deal with the IRS, it's a bit like that. They have a weakness. Surely you've read the stories about dragons with a tender point at the neck, the giants with the bad foot, or whatever. We were sitting alongside Route 36 at around 9 p.m. And my eyes were drawn to the distant, sparkling lights of Longmont, which served as a beacon of civilization past the featureless crags promontories promontories which yawned up toward the sky. We hurt them wherever we write. We hurt them whenever we write something down, he whispered. Take a picture, write a book, they scream. Little bastards actually scream, like mice. I ever tell you about the time my dad set up a glue trap? It's true. Lots worse than those ordinary mouse traps. They die a quick and painless death with them for the most part. The glue traps, they're another matter. Dad came up to me with one, said, just watch here, Bayard. And I did. For hours I sat and waited, and eventually this little came in sniffing, smelled his treat, and he lunged at it. And his paws got all sticky, and his fur got entwined, and he tried pulling out. Tried as hard as he could. That's what she said. I'm so sorry. But the excitement worked him up into a fervor. Organs ruptured. His heart went splattering all over the place. Holy cow. The kidney followed soon after and stopped moving. Jesus. I didn't respond. Tried gathering my own thoughts. Pressed my index finger against my temples and rubbed them. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what that emoji is, but thank you. The lights Lights on the horizon began to warp and shift into varying hues of purple. That's what these things need, Macy assured me. A slow death. Make the bastards scream, 'cause they just don't know what's good for 'em. We're pioneers of time, you and I are. Explorers on the new frontier. The frontiers is ours to desecrate. Okay. The next day I looked into the property, spoke to the hygiene property office. Okay, yeah. So this is the same Chloe. So this is talking about the actual archive. Then there's something I'm going to Control C and Control V. Head bloop. Oh well, I didn't want. I'm just gonna take out this part. Blanc. There. I'll just keep that. Huh. So yeah, Boise Time Traveler. And then there is, said his name is Bayard. That's a fun name. I don't like this guy, but you know, a fun name. And then it's Macy's, right? Macy, no, just Macy. I'm great at this, I swear. Macy, Bayard Macy. Okay. So yeah, she is prior administration. Bayard Macy. And you know what I'm gonna start doing? I'm gonna start linking all the places where they show up. So, blog. And then Julian is in Gulb. And so is Amethyst. Gulb. Prior administration. And what is this one called? Chloe Final Thoughts. See, this time I highlighted where I was before, so I wouldn't lose my place again. Big brain. Final thoughts. Thoughts. Okay, Marsha also shows up in Gulb. This is from blog. Trevor Carlisle is in the blog. 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 Okay. And then he's also in prior administration. Okay. This I do want to highlight and take note of in terms of like Macy's just character, because I feel like this sums it up quite a bit. Um, I do want to go back and take note of the very first thing that we hear either character say, because when you are storytelling, um, the very, very first line of something, of anything, whether it's the first line that a character says, the first line just in general, that's what's setting up both your expectations for the overall the overall story, and then you're also like I don't know how to word this correctly, but you get what I yeah, you get it making sense. I hope so. Okay, the next day I looked in the property, spoke to the hygiene property office, picked up the cassette tapes and VHS tapes and 8-track tapes and the helical scan and high 8 and super 8 from the Longmont thrift store and carried them in a satchel to the building, which had originally been some kind of corn processing plant, but now stood vacant and empty, perfect for the utilization of this new endeavor. By, nar- by, night, by nightfall, the first shelf was completed. It was soon followed by 3 more. I wondered whether or not the beings Macy had spoken of would approach me, and when. I sat awake at night, sleeping on the floor in the mist of that day's hall. The people at the thrift store gave me strange looks as I made my daily trip to and from hygiene. Yet soon enough half the archival shed was filled. I was overjoyed, and didn't have the faintest idea why. I found a few like-minded individuals in Boulder one night. While strolling along Pearl Street Mall as a diversion, Aphasia and Scott were kind people. Do we have Scott written down? No, we don't. Cool. I'm gonna put this up here. I'm separating these. Like, we have people and entities, and I'm not sure if I should put Macy in people or entities, but for now, we're gonna keep them in people. This is subject to change at some point, though. Okay, so we have Phasia and Scott. They are in Chloe. Final thoughts. Chloe. What do you mean that's not how you spell thoughts? What? Chloe, final thoughts. Okay. Wrong one. There we go. We're kind people, sitting aside a fountain which gurgled and sloshed, and I took advantage of their generosity and kindness. It was the first real contract I had made with anyone in over a year. They were bored and tired of the present, so I offered them a journey into the past. My intricities made a definite impression, And while I don't think they would volunteer with no pay to spend 3 hours every weekday at the archival building, assembling electrical systems and filling our bureaucratic forums, they were on the front steps the next morning, prepared to do anything that laid ahead. I guided them like insects onto their work, and they were so eager to oblige. It was almost eerie. Huh. They asked a few times who the president was, and I told them he was funding this project. I was the president, of course, in theory, though Macy very well could have been. I took orders from him, and he became less of a pronounced entity and more so faded into my subconscious, integrated himself into my head. I was second in command to him, and I believe that we remained as long as we did, in part due to his vision, his clarity, his accounting for every contingency. The years passed, went slowly, and the new millennium happened once again, and I took little notice of it. I spent some of what remained of my money from Boise on state-of-the-art computers, servers, and infrastructure. Not from AST, of course. They had lost my business. How dare they employ married men? Uh, Little by little, the organization took shape, like a planetoid accruing debris to add to its own mass, and I remained in my office and waited for any problems to arise, and none did for the most part. I wondered, I wondered who the beings Macy spoke of had been, and devised attack plans in my heads, which I doodled onto a notebook paper so I wouldn't forget. Still attempting to remain in full control of my life, even if my life as I had envisioned it had long since broken into a million tiny pieces. The climate was different here, I soon realized. For our first winter, we put in insulation in high-grade windows, and during many of the blizzards, I, Scott, and Aphasia sat around. That is not grammatically correct. Poop. Sat around and they told me about their courses at CU Boulder, what they were learning, and I listened idly while outside the world became a blank canvas of snow and icicles. Scott's specialty was local history. Aphasia was working her way up to earn a major in theater. She was particularly fond of the Shakespeare adage, adage that all the world was a stage. She even kept a magnet with a quote on her filing cap on her filing. She even kept a fridge magnet with a quote on her filing cabinet. More volunteers followed. I ensured that their schedules were flexible and that their time was valued. Stringing them along was the key, letting them see enough of my ends that they'd understand what it was they had to do. The pieces continued to fall into place. Our organization was thriving. This is giving me very, very strong Welcome to Night Vale vibes. Like, this is very, very Welcome to Night Vale. And that's not like a bad... Oh, boy. So that's just a comparison. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's kind of a... I just mean that it's both... They're just very similar. That's what I'm getting at. There's no subtext there. That's it. Okay. I'm gonna take note. So Chloe and Scott are UC Boulder. But Aphasia... We wrote this down somewhere. Because aphasia is like a thing, isn't it? Yeah. Loss of ability to understand or express speech. Like, why would you name your child that? That and every other character in this, like, in this story is like Amethyst, Marsha, Chloe. Bayard stands out a little bit. But like Julian, Carl, Trevor, Dan, Shelby, Ellis, like these are all very, very normal names. And then there's such aphasia, you know, loss of ability to understand or express speech caused by brain damage. Is it CU or UC? No, it's CU. Wait, CU. Okay. Dyslexia strikes again. Let's go. I wonder if that's like foreshadowing. I mean, it probably is, but it's like, you know. Oh, whoopsies. Sorry, that probably didn't sound great. Hmm. I remember the first time I saw one of those things. It's a sort of experience you never really forget. You have this jolt of adrenaline in your chest, starts pumping and palpitating, and you're overcome by a rush sense of intense guilt and remorse. That's what they do. They inspire pity in you, because they are pathetic when you get right down to it, slovenly and without grace. I had been expecting their arrival for some time, because the days were still and quiet, and the noontime haze had gathered over the entire town of Hygiene. Small little wooden shacks built from quaint oak, where the locals spoke little and performed even less in the way of action. I remember Aphasia had been standing alongside me at one of the shelves in the middle of the shed, sorting copies of some defunct local magazine into boxes. All of a sudden, she looked at me, and I got a sensation in the back of my neck as if something had passed behind us. She felt it too. Chloe, she screamed as the box with the magazines was torn from the shelf and careened onto the floor, whereupon it burst into flame. She ran for the fire extinguisher, and I, coughing into my elbow over the smoke and foam, tried consoling her while the tears rolled down her face, and she aimed at the cinders with a wavering arm. She understood, at least somewhat, that I was privy to the source of the event, and she felt resentment toward me because I would not make the information as clear as she would prefer. Asp, I said, clutching tightly at her elbow. It's okay. You dropped it, that's all. It's a poltergeist, she said. Has to be. I saw a TV special about them once. They're manifestations of a disturbed mind. Energy manifest. Oh God, whose mind is it? Mine? Am I doing this? She was a mess of nerves, so I brewed a cup of chamomile. Oh God. Chamomile. It's chamo. Look, for the longest time I pronounced it chamomile. I know. I know that's not how you say it. It's chamomile. It's chamomile. I brewed a cup of chamomile tea for her in my office, where she collapsed onto my futon, exhausted from the effort with the extinguisher. It's not that, I reassured her. Not in a poltergeist, anyway. I don't know what that was, but it's not you. You're fine. Calm down. Breathe. She took the cup and stormed out without saying another word, and we didn't discuss it after that. She may have seen the other from the corner of her eye, as I had, before it made itself invisible as they're known to do. I can't say for certain how much she was on to. The following years were filled with all manner of events, from the execution of the Melrose Hypnofest to the number of staff challenges we went through, to the construction of the facility's infrastructure. The archive was featured in several press outlets, and I became less aware of who I had been in the previous lifetime. It slowly left me, and I forgot about the smell of my dead body festering beneath the floorboards. She was still up there, I realized, even now, while my reputation grew and my domain broadened. The shadow of who I had been lay dormant, known to nobody save for myself and Mr. Macy. It would stay that way. And the next time I encountered an other, it had been, I had been at the archive late, shuffling through some tax returns, mindlessly lost in my own reverie, and the thing had manifested itself through the frame of the door to my office. I remained completely still. Hoping that it would leave, I remained dormant. No such luck. It was massive, and it looked even worse than how Macy had described it. Covered in scales and bursting sores, little gray hairs over its mouth which protruded, two mandibles coated in slime. Okay. And then the arms, they made a distinct sound like bells attached to a cat's neck, a kind of cracking sound that amounted to irrefutable evidence of their presence. The same noise I heard in the cornfields when I was younger. The corn grows at such a fast rate that if you're standing in a large enough group of corn, you can hear it grow, little by little, inch by inch. As the thing's arms thrashed, it ran towards me. I ducked under my desk and waited there in complete silence for around 5 minutes until it left. I assume it was probably blind, or otherwise deprived of some sense to that effect. What the frick are these things? Huh. It was then, I think, around 2005, that I became fully aware of the danger I had been put in, and wondered what Mr. Macy was thinking when he sent me here. Still, I held out hope that maybe he had some sort of plan for combating the onslaught. The frequency of abnormal events increased by the week. I even kept track of them in a little calendar. We moved on. Some of us left. Aphasia, in particular, became less optimistic about her own future. Her personality was altered significantly by her time here. Her once bubbly optimism was gradually suppressed by a sour demeanor and a thankless dedication to my whims. I, too, was transformed in certain ways by the edifice which housed us. I became more conscious around temporal disturbances. I made a greater effort to conceal them, not only from the staff, but from my own head in a sense, to deny them, to normalize the rapidity with which they stuck. Every shelf cracking open, every box ripped apart by unseen transdimensional hands, became an excuse to continue down the path I had chosen. She isn't the one who chose this path. Like, this was 100% Mr. Macy's path that he chose for her. Huh. You're probably wondering about the incident at the gas station. Call it luck, but that was the first time I spotted one of those bastards up close. It was staying close to the wall, letting out these pathetic gasps, and I saw her in there, mindlessly indulging in copyright infringement. Could have spotted the citrus emerald from a mile away. I had been using it until about 6 months prior to that night, until my laptop started oozing purple fluid from the monitor. Seeing the application out in the wild made my blood seethe. Wait. Was staying close to mindlessly indulging in copyright infringement. Citrus emerald. I get this part. This is the part that makes sense. Application out in the wild. I don't know what the citrus emerald is. This could just be something flying over my head. I was impulsive. You're probably saying to yourself right now. Acted on a whim, on a selfless spur-of-the-moment crusade. She thinks very highly of herself for someone who isn't great. And in my line of work, that's foolhardy. You're probably right. However, as I hope I've made it clear, things don't always go the way you want. And if they don't, there's really no reason in adhering to pain, adhering to a plan. I don't know what became of her after I drove out, whether the thing got here, whether the thing got her, but I did try to distract it. Pulled pulled out an 8-track cartridge I had been concealing under the tarp of the trunk for an occasion such as this. I reared up on its hind legs, arms shaking. I guess I know what they really sound like. Aspen leaves. Huh. Aspen leaves. That's... Wait. Oh, I didn't want that. Yeah. Hold on. Aspen leaves are in here, aren't they? Like, we've seen this somewhere before. Requiem for Steve! Okay, so these... Let's see... Where have we seen this before? Useful tools, skies on fire, look at the... free fall, dying place... Where have we seen aspen leaves? Nope. Where have we seen... I swear we've seen this before. Is it in the blog somewhere? I'm taking note of it anyway. But it's weird the way that they're describing these things. It makes them sound like primal, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Like, very, very animalistic, but they clearly have, like, a goal, you know? But I did try to distract it. Pulled out an 8-track cartridge that I had been concealing under a tarp in the truck for an occasion such as this. Golden coins fluttering in a sharp wind. It charged at the car, but I let it around the block some, hoping it'd be distracted enough to get off the scent of the lime wire. Okay, is that something else that we've taken note of? Did I stutter? No. I said lime. It's not lime. Lee. I hope my effort worked because the thing whacked my taillight with one of those malformed appendages. And the next day, I had to go in to get it repaired. Also, I don't know if what you guys are picturing when you're hearing me read this. I'm 100% picturing like a praying mantis, and I don't know why. But in my little mind, they are just giant praying mantis. And I could be proven wrong later, but who knows. I had to go get it repaired, and the guy at the shop asked me how it happened. I told him it had been a tree branch. I don't think you bought it entirely. I'm not gonna even bother butchering that. The resentment I held towards the things was partially due to Mr. Macy's conditioning, you think, and partially due to my own standards. The incidents just kept piling up, and with each one came a new challenge, one which I overcame using the resources at my disposal. It was difficult at first, although on my personal computer, behind a password, I created a file with a list of remedies and useful deterrents. They had weaknesses, I was sure of that. Silver bullets and wolf's bane. Above all, I tried to keep the spirits of the staff happy. By 2007, we had grown to around 15 strong, and our server space grew as these volunteers from Denver and Boulder, many of whose names elude me, brought in free equipment and genuinely believed in the cause. Then came the notoriety that what I would refer to as the golden period. We were covered we were covered in national magazines, featured as one of the best resources on the internet. I was asked to drive all the way out to some studio in California to get some pictures taken. The pictorial declared us as innovators and pioneers, selfless juggernauts who would sacrifice our time and energy into something so banal. It wasn't really, I told them. It was exciting, an adrenaline rush. Yes, they said in the monochrome soundstage with the pale screen behind me and the click of the Nikon ahead. Yes, it really must be like that. Polite laughter. I feared these confrontations as each one increased the likelihood of our connection with the space being found out in some official capacity. There's a weird capital S. S. Nope. Keeping a secret is difficult, especially when one's business model revolves around complete transparency. A group of tourists came by in 2008. Apparently, we had been added to Boulder County's official list of desirable attractions. I politely dismissed them with the swish of the hand and a soft click of the screen door. Told them that if they wanted to, they could come back some other time, and warned the guide in no uncertain terms that if the archive wasn't removed from the list, I'd go down to the county clerk's office myself and have a word with them. The publicity had another angle too. Amplified the odds of police discovering those dead bodies. I hadn't changed my name. House had probably been foreclosed. Holy cow. Debt collectors and real estate agencies trying to hunt me down. I hadn't made the proper arrangements. Had just left it up there on the hill to rot. And the bodies in the basement probably smelled. Nobody could go down there without latching on to the rancid aroma of mildew. My computer search history was filled with all kinds of research in the decomposition of a body, how long it took for bodies to become hold on. That kind of thing. If the police found my hard drive, they would be able to bust me for sure. Ugh, sorry. Frantically, late at nights, my mind raced with a million possibilities. Possibilities wherein I faced the consequences of my actions. Which Macy had assured me was in all cases avoidable via flippant defiance of temporal logic. Along the course of my internet sleuthing, I learned of adipocre, adipoc, adip, adipocre, adipocre, I can't read. Uh, when I retired to my lodging at the Hygiene Motor Lodge every night, which I had been staying at for nearly. Gosh, I'm sorry, guys. That cough kind of came out of nowhere. My allergies have been pretty bad lately, but I've been trying to keep a hold of them. Let's see. With few questions asked of me, I fell into a fitful torrent of dreams. During these episodes, I ran my hands into vast of adipocre, felt its creamy, slick texture along my flesh. Arm deep in the stuff, I squeezed it and grabbed it, and painting my face with it became a real mess. What is this? A grayish, waxy substance formed like the. Hello? Adipocere. Okay. Adipocere. I'm sorry. Where are you getting this? Oh, I guess they kind of explained it down here. That's what the archive is. It's It's a timeless grave where things go to die. Every file, every list is engulfed in grave wax. It defines temporal logic as I had. It can make something 100 years long dead function normally, even even if all actual life is drained from it. Hebloop. And while my thoughts became consumed by the archive itself decayed, fell into disrepair, and our staff fell from 15 to around 5, as it had been in the early days. And gradually we slipped back into irrelevancy and obscurity. Here on the high moors surrounded by the foothills, an otherworldly landscape at night, Aphasia left in 2013. Wait, I should add that down to the timeline. She didn't say anything when she did, just handed me her resignation early in the morning, which was reasonably well written and concise. She stood by while I skimmed through it, said something about her mind being occupied with other concerns, a feeling she didn't belong. When I was done, I handed it back to her and she scambled out, all life drained from her, all her energy depleted toward the floppy disk and the microcassettes, which sat untouched in the rows and rows and columns of memory. So the archive kind of operates. The way that they're describing it makes it sound like a vampire of sorts. And then I guess the others would then be vampire hunters. Also, I am gonna pause real quick, because my throat is being funky. So I'm gonna go get some water and a cough drop. I will be right back. Hello, I'm back. There we go. I have a menthol. It's cherry flavored. Yum yum. Okay. I had created something. Some sort of. Well, what? I had created. This is gonna be hard. Hold on. I had created something. Some sort of entity. In my sleep, it took the form of a barrel, whose opening was like a mouth with gnashing skeletal teeth. Teeth are the skeleton. Full of
Adipocere.
an ocean of the stuff, crumbling and shifting. The wood of the barrel, ancient and well built, with metal slats to hold it together. It was a man-built thing, created by perhaps some ancient merchant in a faraway land, or a farmer who used it to water his date crops. In the waving billows of the fertile crescent. Which weren't so different from the lands I found myself in today, environmentally speaking.
Don't want to fear them.
It said.
They can't hurt you.
From its recesses came a soft noise of the substance sloshing back and forth in those dark, hollow corners. It was reassuring, a respite from the brutal stress I had faced every day in my office, weighed down by submissions and paperwork. I had very few resources left at my disposal. What do you expect me to do? I asked the barrel. I'm alone here, alone and afraid of what they'll do if they find me. They absolutely can hurt me. I've seen them. They have those claws.
Calm yourself. What I'm about to tell you is vital not only to your own survival, but to mine. Listen carefully.
I don't know how often I can keep up with that voice. It proceeded to tell me about the nature of the others. That if I had never known about them, they would never have been able to find me. That if I ignored them, their presence would diminish. And that I could condition my mind so as to diminish the threat they posed, such that they could not injure or harm me. Mind over matter. Raw human will over tangible opposition. The more I gazed at those deep folds of corpse fat, the more sense it made. I bought books, incense rituals, and incantations on meditation and how to clear the mind, how to induce a trance state of near catatonia, slow my breathing and heart rate down to 5 per minute, to change the sorts of brainwaves I had completely of my own accord, switch from theta to gamma and back again. I learned how to distinguish between NREM and REM sleep, stuffed an entire corner of my office with neurological papers, and spent hundreds of nights recording myself sleeping. These sleep recordings were critical. Every day, upon my arrival at the grounds, I would play one tape of myself, recorded over roughly 8 hours I slept each night. I spent 8 hours glued to the TV, watching in real time as my brain entered those subconscious realms. With the
Adipocere.
barrel and the hidden danger, trying desperately to spot any aberrations. They were gone. My eyes flickered. At certain points, they opened and my pupils dilated. However, it was hard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt if this was anything out of the ordinary. I told myself the others were not real. They were only a byproduct of my fevered imagination, and that I was slowly losing my mind. And I had probably imagined Mr. Macy in the time sphere. And all of it. I didn't know how old I was, whether the time skip had elongated or shortened my life, and every time I tried brainwashing myself to stand in denial of the evidently apparent arachnid beings, my common sense kicked in and pointed out that they were a threat, and that I couldn't continue to function like this, in a non-stop self-imposed cycle of reprogramming and deprogramming. That if I were to survive, I would need to ignore the barrel and accept my circumstances, accept who I had become through the process of life, whatever exactly my life had been. Oh, okay. That's cool. Um, I remember killing most of the staff in cold blood on that day in 2014, because why not? 2014. It's like watching a movie that someone else made, really. I guess it was the hypnosis that did it. You might not stalk you might not put stock into hypnosis, but you might consider yourself immune to manipulation. Listen to a hypnotist right now, if you think that. Have them convince you that you can't stand up, or you're floating in space, that your tongue is melting into liquid, or anything along those lines. See how immune you really are. I had done it to myself, I think. Or Mr. Macy had initiated the process, and I had continued it. I woke up, and instead of driving to the archive as usual, I went to the Walmart in Longmont and bought a semiotic rifle from behind the counter. I'm sorry, you can buy semiotic rifles from Walmart? This can't be real. Block rifle. Oh my god. Walmart sells firearms. What in the world? In 2015, Walmart ended sales of modern sporting rifles. But they did. But they did sell them. What the frick? I hate that. We really learn things. We learn new things every day on this channel. Uh, I remember it was unusually warm that day, though not unbearably hot. The crickets in the fields busily humming to themselves, the little guppies in Birch Lake happily bubbling to themselves. I tested the rifle on the shores of Birch Lake. It was quiet. I doubt that. As I loaded it up, I thought about how normal this was, that this was unavoidable, that there were no alternatives. Every contingency had been denied me. Every road led to this moment, this sense of being alive in the present, in the here and now. I remember seeing Scott standing near the fax machine. He had been in a state of absolute complacency since aphasia left to who nowhere. Dear Scott, one of the first. Next to him, the
Adipocere.
barrel sat, round and full, and speaking to me through the blubber. Scott knew too much. Of course he had seen them. They were right there, right in front of his eyes. I remember when I pulled the rifle out, he didn't appear shocked or startled. He just raised his hands and backed into the corner. For a few minutes, we just looked into each other's eyes, neither of us saying a word, both of us connecting over the shared experience which was about to take place. I remember, after every one of them had been eliminated, each one of their dangerous memories permanently destroyed, I went into my office and gathered up hundreds of tapes I had filmed of myself sleeping. They were dangerous too. They hinted at the existence of the things. I buried them, the bodies of the staff, underneath the floor, using little more than everyday cement and my own unstoppable will. The barrel was behind the hole, and it murmured a little. Then, when the mass grave was sealed up, and the final layer of concrete dried, and everyone I had worked with for a decade or more had been permanently removed from history, the barrel gradually faded away. I was standing beneath a highway underpass. It was Denver, I think, though I can't be sure of where it was exactly. The area looked run down, and it was coated everywhere with the sound of overhead traffic. There was a man standing there about 20 feet from me with a stupid haircut and a checkered shirt. He's holding a camcorder over his shoulder and smiling. He looks down at the ground, picks up something, lets it blow away into the wind. I'm writing the same person. I'm in my villa at Orange Bay, scribbling madly on this sheet of notepad paper. Something about lawsuits, responsibility. My hands are moving faster than I can keep up with them. I put the thing into an envelope, set it on the front porch. Hope it reaches the man with the camcorder as soon as possible. I never met him, but he will find it. Need to forget what happened, where I was, what it was, all of it, as soon as possible. Drink a pineapple I don't drink. I don't know what this is. I was Macy's Patsy, the worm on the end of the hook. He is only immortal because he uses other people to sustain his immortality. So yeah, he's a vampire. And I used other people to sustain mine. But it all goes up to him. He lives forever, and he used me to keep them off his trail as a diversion. I, and all my endeavors, were nothing more than a side trip off the main road. I have to hand it to you, Macy. You knew I was suggestible. You know when anyone is. You're very good at that. You slip through the hands of the clock like a thief, and they'll probably never find you. But they will find me. You counted on that. I'm going over to the bar to pour myself a cocktail. Hands are shaking, so a little bit of the absinthe spills onto the wood grain. I wipe it up, haphazardly, using the corner of my shirt. Outside, the sun is fading, the waves are turning choppy. have a cough drop. I should not be coughing. Outside, the sun is fading and the waves are turning choppy. I can feel them. They're out there. It's a game of waiting now. Strata is growing, laying over itself in distinctly unnatural ways. A layer or a series of layers of rock on the ground. Huh. We learn something new every day. We're learning lots of things today. Laying over itself in distinctly unnatural ways. Sky is starting to look like static. There she is, the Dark Lady. So, it is confirmed. Bayard is a time vampire. Ah! She's silhouetted on the shore, picking her way along the pebbles and reeds, clad from head to toe in an outdated turtleneck and slacks. Straight out of a John Hughes movie. I remember I used to wear clothes like that. I wear clothes like that. Quite often, actually. A lifetime ago in high school, when my aunt was still alive, living each day as if it would be my last, before I understood just how undesirable immortality was. She stops outside the glass, peering in at me. I'm sitting on the chase lounge, chugging the drink down the hatch. Her reflection is difficult to make out. It's faint. She puts her hands up against the frame of the door, and they create little spots of condensation. She's not one of them, but she's probably on their side. I've heard it before in my nightmares. Something about being caught during a singular moment in time. A time she regrets and doesn't want to visit, but doesn't want to revisit. I rise to my unsteady feet and tiptoe toward her, knowing that her presence here is an impossibility. That everything I've seen defies explanation. That if things went my way, and this world made sense, and I had any real control over it, I would explain who she was and how she came to be. I could devise models and formulas to predict when those entities arose and why, but there's nothing scientific here. Just absinthe vapors and strawberry infusions. I've always been a pawn at the whim of the tide. Who are you? Who are you? I stutter. Outside the waves crash. Boy howdy, my throat is not having it today. I'm sorry, guys. Woof. The resort's main building has gone completely dark, and the only indication of any human presence, save my own, is a discarded umbrella 75 feet down the beach with a rainbow pattern on it. Joyce, she says, and smiles, the kind of smile you see in a yearbook or an old celluloid photograph, which indicates an obligation to express happiness rather than a sense of genuine satisfaction. You know me, Chloe. Let me in. The glass slips from my grasp and makes a soft thud on the carpet. Her eyes are so empty, so devoid of personage. They can shapeshift, can't they? Wait. Is Joyce the name of her aunt? I didn't write that down. Let's see. I live with my aunt. Baird Macy. Let's see. Hmm. I did 26. That's taking too long. Oh, son of a biscuit. I know I highlighted that. Oh well. The amount of bread. Yeah, there's a lot, huh? I've decided to add a new one for every stream, mostly because I forgot how you remove just one asset. So now I have a permanent game controller and lots of bread. They can shapeshift, can't they? Mr. Macy said that they can alter their form if you're too impressionable. I squint, attempt to put myself into a frame of mind where she becomes arachnid. All I see is her grinning mug, and behind it, the rain starts up. In buckets, it washes over and erodes the shore. She's getting drenched, I whisper, unbolting the latch and sliding it open. If she did come here to wipe me, that's all I deserve. It's all anyone deserves. Yes. I've also finally gotten around to making my thumbnails for YouTube. There may or may not be a lot of bread there too. Also, hi Cup Pod. It's been a hot minute. I hope you're doing well. Oh, also, the bread on my forehead somehow got attached to like my jaw, which is why it looks like it's attacking me. And when I blink, it makes my ear bread moves. It makes my bread ear bread. It makes the bread on my ears move. That. It might, yeah. Ugh. You remember me, don't you? She giggles as she brushes her hair from her eyes and approaches me, arms outstretched. I politely decline the hug and make my way back to the Chase lounge. She pulls up a small plastic chair and folds her hands in her lap. Her nails are painted with a tasteless magenta. She's clasping a small purse with a Memphis group design on it. Trying to remember where I saw her, but I'm drawing blanks. As if on cue, she lifts her finger to jog my memory. You're on tape, I scream before she can interject. You sat in that room. Talk to me. You're a murderer. Get out. My eyes bolt open, and the next thing I know, I'm at her throat. Because I remember that night at the archive, getting sucked into her world, becoming one with it. Ugh. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to finish this up. And then I think that's gonna be it for my disaster of a throat. It's not having it today. I'm so sorry, guys. Ugh. Because I remember that night at the archive, getting sucked into her world, becoming one with it. I remember the barrel and the tarp, and the look she had given me, that all-knowing, soul-piercing stare. She claws at my face, then grabs my wrist and forces me onto the floor. Without thinking, she grabs a bottle of whiskey from the cabinet and rams it against my left temple. For a while, all I can make out is her face. It looks older than it did a moment ago. She has crow's feet and her neck is less defined. It's hard to make out if this is illusory or not. She probably is one of them. What's wrong with you, Chloe? She retorts. She sets me up on the tan polyester couch next to the potted palm I bought in the market square in Kingston upon my arrival. Don't you remember? Oh, thank you, Cup Pod. Don't you remember? We talked about this on the phone a week ago. I spent a lot of money to come here. Last thing I was expecting was for you to get nasty. She heads over to the fridge and opens it, removing a stick of celery when she starts munching on it with vigor. I put my fingers to my temple. I'm bleeding profusely. Why isn't she dialing 911 if she really means no harm? A movie starts playing in my head, every bit as vivid as the tape which held her. Okay.
Scott, and that's our new character, Joyce. I don't know what else to write about Joyce. Yeah, Chloe. Beryl? Joyce is also in Chloe. Final thoughts. It's 1993 and I'm 17 again. This is long before the AST conference, before I looped back. I lived a normal life, always felt unfulfilled, but I really did take what I had for granted. In hindsight, maybe that's where I went wrong. I'm on my way to the convenience store, because the old crone has asked for another pack of cigarettes. She always switches the brand up on me. I think it's to deliberately confuse me. The sun overhead is beating down, and for a while I consider heading over to Albertson Park, just a few blocks away. Hang out under the gazebo, ditch the mission to the convenience store, and check out the birds. I have my Walkman on me. I'm listening to something on my headphones, a synth pop track. It goes in through my ears and it fills my head, and I'm kind of standing in place on the sidewalk instead of walking forward, swaying back and forth. It's the sort of music the hag has discouraged me from listening to. She says I should focus on my grades. I'm so tired. Joyce is on her front porch. She's holding a glass of lemonade and watching me with interest. Those flickering eyes reflect off the surface of the cup she's holding. She's secluded there in a miniature jungle of shade beneath the wood awning. It looks so cool under the tree in the darkness. Under there in the darkness. Hey, kid, she exclaims, raising her hand. Do you want to make a few extra bucks? That's a... Confused, I take the headphones off, and she repeats her offer. For a while, I consider it. I've never really spoken to strangers before. In fact, I don't get out much. I've seen Joyce a few times, mostly shopping at the grocery store, in the produce section. But I don't know her, really. I don't know who she is or why she would ask me randomly to help her with something instead of calling a carpenter or an electrician from the Yellow Pages. I am tired, though. So tired. And that shade. Cool, she says as I make my way towards where she's sitting. Now, before we go back, I'm gonna lay down a few ground rules. You don't tell anyone about this, you do whatever I ask, and you don't back down. Agreed? That is, okay. I nod, thinking that whatever she has is probably pretty labor-intensive. She pulls out a crisp $100 bill and lays it flat in the middle of my palm. Without speaking or displaying my awe, I put it in my pocket and follow her to the back gate, which she unlocks. I don't like where this is going. It opens onto a placid noontime landscape. There's a fence and trees on the outskirts, and mostly there's a big lawn. In the middle of the lawn, there is a large hole, 3 feet by 5 feet, maybe 10 feet deep. She steps in behind me, and looking around with nerves as if to ensure nobody spotted us entering, she shuts the gate. I walk over to the vat. It makes a slight hissing sound as she pops the plastic lid off of those perfectly manicured nails of hers, sets the lid gingerly down the equally manicured lawn, and near the orifice inch by inch. is what greets me. The stench of death in acidic tones, a kind of lumpy fat substance, what appears to be some sort of long, dismembered facial remnant staring up at me from the depths. A good mouth which was consumed by its prey. And all around it the bubbles, rising and popping and seething, a dark pool of liquid destruction. She allows me to get a good look at what's inside. A really good look. A better look than anyone else will ever receive. And then she closes it. "You know what to do, kiddo," she says. Hoist it on in." 10 out of 10. With some effort, I manage to ease my trembling knuckles underneath the weight of the barrel. Oh, the barrel again! Okay. Grip its sides and gradually lower it into the dirt. It's surprisingly light, only 90 pounds or so. She hands me the shovel and some plastic bags to wrap my hands with, and stands there with folded arms and a wry smile as I shove her dirt in, ounce for ounce and pound for pound, erasing a person, an entity, a name from history and from memory. Just like recording over a tape. The audio that is no longer present is dissipated in the aether. The visuals are new, the substance has been altered. In the 1960s and 1970s, wiping tapes in the television industry was common practice. Future episodes of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson from that period, as well as countless other programs, are impossible to view, all because they wanted to save money without buying new tapes. Record over the old ones, they said. It doesn't matter. Get rid of it as soon as possible. Don't worry about it. Wipe over it, reuse it, cover the hole. Done. And now there are gaps. Very noticeable gaps. Memory holes. It's 2022, and I am lying on the couch, and Joyce is there, standing over me, broken whiskey bottle held in those same perfectly manicured nails, as polished as ever, her eyes as bright as diamonds. I'm feeling the effects of blood loss. Blood all over my shirt and all over the fabric. My temple has fused with the fabric, clotting up, but it's still running, spooling out of me like a cassette deck gone haywire. My contents are unfurling and spilling, and the darkness has grown behind my cornea. Poor, poor Chloe, is one of the last things I hear. Too vindictive. I remember back in Boise, you know. I heard what they said about you behind your back. Always wanting things you couldn't achieve. Always outliving your capacity, never satisfied. I heard that from your friends and the people you thought were your friends, sitting out regularly. You catch a lot of private conversations, idle gossip, murmurs of discontent. Nobody ever liked you, Chloe. I contemplate my current being, and the present, in the here and now, and analyze the last remnant of what was my mind. The texture of the couch, the microscopic patterns formed by the thread, the temperature of the air is tested without much effect by my fingertips. With twitch a millimeter, and then lie cold. And Joyce is there, and in many ways she is the same as she always had been, fading into static, at the collective maelstrom of our deceptive primate recollection, the repository of terrible ideas and long-abandoned hope. She recedes an inch every hour, holding the whiskey bottle and speaking in that strange voice which only she is capable of, and the one which simultaneously unsettles and excites. I am headed for a different area of the psyche. I am en route to a large, dark room with a circular opening. Okay, so lots of timey-wimey shenanigans going on. Like, that's what it feels like it's implying, right? Like, she went back in time and somehow made, like, 17-year-old Chloe bury herself. Like, why else would you pull in some random 17-year-old to come bury a body for you? Other than it's some kind of, like, twisted thing. Ugh. Did they say when in 2022? Nope. Maybe it is this day. Okay, that's gonna be all for this week. Thank you guys for coming. I am losing my voice. I don't know what happened. Yeah, thank you for joining me. We'll bring it over to the daytime. Yoop. Hello. I'll try and go and find somebody to raid. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Let's see. Oh, somebody named Starboy Blue is playing Fossil Fighters. I don't know what that is, but oh my god, hi Howl. Did you guys hear that? That was my cat. He didn't actually vomit, he just made the vomiting sound. Anyway, Starboy Blue with Fossil Fighters. It looks like they're a Triceratops furry, which is actually really, really cool. I don't think I've seen one like that before. Anyway, thank you guys again for coming. I will see you guys all next Thursday. With more of How's Moving Castle. Okay, bye.